In this video, I'm going to provide a brief example of stubs. So as we've covered them in the previous video, them in the main function and do a loop, a do while loop. And this is going to test a take damage function repeatedly without having to rerun the program each time. So I have this character loop check. While that is set to Y, it's going to repeat, and I'm entering that right here, cin loop check each time. Before I go into more detail, I'm just going to build and run that. We can enter from the keyboard a character health. I'll just enter something like 100, and you will notice here that we get something similar, enter damage taken 25, but I did not go and enter that value from the keyboard. We cannot just get that for testing purposes, and that's because that is written in a stub, as we'll see here shortly, and then I just print that out. I can do Y to redo that. So now I don't have to run the program again just to do the test. Let's say we've taken some damage throughout gameplay and we now only have 15 hit points or 15 health left. It doesn't really make sense to go negative health. 0 typically means game over. What we get here is damage once again for testing purposes 25, and then we have 0 here. In for no, and then we get testing init, program will now exit. Alright. So we have these variables here, then I do character health, get health input, and then damage taken, that int variable as well, get damage. Then we do some output here, we do the character health, the damage taken, and then we actually set the character health once again after we've printed it out. Otherwise, if we set it prior to that line, it's going to print out the incorrect value right there, right? Here we do the take damage function, and this take damage function takes in the character health and the damage taken. Alright, let's just go and look at those functions. Just for demonstration, we have a get health input, which has a temporary variable. We do console output, enter character health, we do cin temp health, and we return that. Here we have the stub. Just a very simple example. It would look like this. So you'd have a temporary variable, you'll do the output, and then you'll do some input and you'll return that. But in this case, we have kind of a dummy function, and it's just going to return 25 each time, as if we've entered that from the keyboard, right? It returns some value that is good enough for testing. The calculation is not correct. In this case, we don't even do input or anything, we just return a value, but that's fine for testing. Then we have the take damage function. This is the function being tested. It's going to return health left after subtracting an amount of damage. It's going to return 0 instead of a negative value, okay? So we do the current health and damage. We do this calculation, store that into a temporary variable, temp health once again. If that is less than or equal to 0, we're going to return 0. Otherwise, we're going to return the temporary health variable. Once we are done here, we do output repeat test, and then we just do that input to check if it is a Y character or not. And then once we break out of that loop, we simply print this out. Also note, if you hover over these, you can see the comments, just another reminder here. So function being tested, returns health left, and so on. Get health input, fully tested function, get damage, that's a stub. So of course, once I am satisfied that the function works as expected, then I'll go now and implement the function that will ask me to input the damage, that will return the amount of damage from the keyboard. I'll test that to make sure it works, and then of course I'll move on to the next function. Once you go and implement your stub functions, those may require other stub functions once more, and eventually you replace the stub functions one after the other with fully implemented functions right as you go through and test each one individually. So just a really basic example. The goal once again is just to break a seemingly huge task or something that's really complex, break that down into more manageable tasks, and build your program one piece at a time basically. Don't go and write 5 functions before you test anything, because you may not know where the problem is. Let's say there's a problem. You may think you know where the problem is, in what function, but you may not be sure, right? It's best to test things as you go along. Alright, I hope you found this section useful, and I'll see you in the next video.